8421 accent opens us up to the world of accents and taps. Two heights is something that is synonymous with marching percussion. And quite frankly, even in concert percussion, it's a skill that we really try to develop in high school. So for some of you, this is obviously going to be very much a review, but for some of you, this is going to be probably one of your bigger challenges, learning how to control your taps versus your accented notes. 8421 exercise is obviously a 421 exercise. It goes through 8 accents versus 8 taps in the rights and then the lefts, and then 4 accents in the right, repeat it, 4 accents in the lefts, and so on and so forth. It's a pretty straightforward exercise, but it has quite a few complications to it, mainly technically speaking. So I'm going to get into my explanation of the exercise, and then afterwards we're going to try some mini exercises together, and then finally we'll watch Preston demonstrate it. Okay, so let's take a deeper look. So this exercise is much like a 421 exercise, but we actually go one step further, and we think of it in terms of 8 accents that we see, right? And then we see 4 accents, and we repeat that with the right hand, and then we move on to the left hand. And then we see 2 accents, and we do 4 times through the 2 accents so that everything equals out. All right, let's write these in so where there's no question. And then what 1 accent looks like. And of course, we do that 8 times on each hand so that it evens out. So let's draw that in. Think of it per hand on this one in terms of the numbers that you do, right? And then on this dividing line is where the repeat happens, right? Off the left hand. So there's not really much to talk about rhythmically in this one. It's not really a challenge rhythmically. The only challenge in it rhythmically is that you want to make sure you're producing the right sounds, that it sounds like 8 notes throughout, and that we don't let accents or taps get in the way of that. What's really hard about this exercise is the transition from accent to tap and making sure that we don't have what essentially equates to a decrescendo, right? We don't want that. What we're looking for is, I'm going to go ahead and kind of erase a bunch of this just so it's not too messy to look at. But what we're really looking for is a smooth, even sound when we go from accent to tap. So what I would do is I would isolate, and we're going to do this together here in a minute, but I would isolate some really simplistic parts of the exercise, like what is it like to do 1 accent and 1 tap together? What's it like to do 2 accents and a tap together? Because that's really, if you can master those skill sets, then putting it in the rest of the exercise is not nearly the challenge. The transitions are everything. And once you're rolling with 8 taps in a row, it's pretty easy, right? It's getting from the accent down to the tap, making sure that we see and hear that clear definition. All right, so let's break this down into some slightly smaller exercises that we can do together. What I would do to approach this exercise first is just practice some good old-fashioned taps. 3 tap 8 notes or 2 8 notes and a quarter notes, probably the better way to think of it. Left hand. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the first note accented. Now I'm going to put those two together. 1, 2, ready, go. Now I'm going to accent the last note. Now I'm going to do 2 accents. Now I'm going to try an accent, a tap, and an accent. First I'll do 3 8 notes to start. 2 8 notes and a quarter. So now I'm going to accent every single beat. So I'm just making up an exercise right now, and this is really probably the most productive thing that you can do in drumming, is to figure out what do you need to work on and then create your own exercise from there. And then you can put on a tune in the background and you can play over and over just some simple patterns to get your hands moving the way you need them to move. What am I working on? Accents and taps. What do I need to work on? The transition from a loud note to a soft note. Well, I'm doing it. So now when I get into the exercise, I've already practiced that skill. I've already worked that skill. It's not brand new to me. But what we really need to avoid on this exercise is that sense of decrescendo. It needs to be black and white. Up, down, up, down. So when I'm thinking about an accent, I'm just thinking like I'm playing eighths at forte. And when I'm thinking about a tap, I'm thinking about playing eighths at piano. And it's that transition that's tricky. You got to make sure that you do a downstroke on the last accent that you have. So if that's 4 accents, it's the 4th one. If you let it rebound, then you're going to be caught by surprise and you're going to have that decrescendo thing. So something you could also practice is just isolating 8 notes with a downstroke. Now 4 notes. Right? And 1 note. And then practice the tap. But isolating the skills, the areas you're struggling in, that's how you're going to fix it. Not just playing it over and over and over again. Ask yourself, where am I struggling? And then create a mini exercise to break down that thing, all right? But again, the most important aspect of this exercise is you have your rebound strokes or your upstrokes, and you have your downstrokes. And as long as you lock it down, and we don't want to change the sound, we don't want to hit it any harder, we just want it to not come back up, and then you're down. And down, it's all the same volume. That is really the goal of this whole exercise. So make sure that if you need to create some mini exercises to work on those skills that you do. Now we're going to listen to Preston play through this.